بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصافات صفا فالزاجرات زجرا فالتاليات ذكرا إن إلهكم لواحد رب السماوات والأرض وما بينهما ورب المشارق.
الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We continue inshallah ta'ala with Surah As-Saffat and ayah number 83. Ayah number 83 from Surah As-Saffat. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us benefit from what we hear. This is from the Tafseer of Imam As-Sa'di rahimahullah. And as Imam Al-Tabari rahimahullah, the Imam of Tafseer Imam Al-Tabari, he had a statement saying إني لأعجب ممن قرأ القرآن ولم يعلم تأويله كيف يلتذ بقراءته. He says إني لأعجب, I'm amazed or estranged, or how can that happen, that someone would recite the Quran and doesn't know the ta'wil of the Quran, does not know the tafsir of the Quran. كيف يلتذ بقراءته, how can he enjoy the recitation of the Quran? And of course, the Quran, since it's shifa and cure, and reciting the Quran is ibadah, and we should not belittle this ibadah. Even if a person doesn't understand what he's reciting, the fact that he's reciting Quran, this is a great ni'mah from Allah. And that's a ibadah that should never be omitted or missed or belittled. When a person says, I don't understand anything, why should I read Quran? This is all ways of shaitan to take the person away from this ibadah. So even if a person doesn't understand the Quran, he should have this act of ibadah called qira'atul Quran. And he should make the ibadah of hifdhul Quran, memorizing the Quran. All of this is to be established perfectly. This is ibadah to be done. But then it's the level of enjoyment, not for one's sake, but the Quran was revealed إنما نزل القرآن ليعمل به, as Al-Hasan Al-Basri rahimahullah, he said, the Quran was revealed for the people to act upon it. فاتخذوا تلاوته أو فاتخذوا تلاوته عملا. So take your recitation as amal. The recitation is amal because you're reciting kalamullah, so that you would act upon the kalam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you have a plan for yourself. Right? So when you're reciting the Quran every day, on a different route, that you're studying the Quran, the ta'wil, the tafsir, the understanding of the Quran, so that the person benefit from it. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us benefit from what we read, inshallah. So ayah number 83, as you see in page in front of us, وَإِنَّ مِنْ شِيعَتِهِ لَإِبْرَاهِيم. I would recite just a few verses that we can cover inshallah ta'ala in this half an hour. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. وإن من شيعته لإبراهيم إذ جاء ربه بقلب سليم إذ قال لأبيه وقومه ماذا تعبدون أئفكا آلهة دون الله تريدون. We'll see if we can continue inshallah. وإن من شيعته لإبراهيم. The translation of the ayah, that from his Shia is Ibrahim. Among those who followed his way was Ibrahim alayhi salam. So we just finished the ayat of Surah Nuh. And again, every time when we go through a tafsir of verses in the middle of a surah, try to remember the verses before, or even from the beginning of the surah. And where the surah from the beginning till the ayat of Surah Nuh made the matter very clear with regards to the hereafter, in Darul Jaza, and the recompense, and the details of what's going to happen to the believers and disbelievers, and their amal, their actions led them to whatever they would see in the Day of Judgment. And then the nations before, and what diverted the people away from the haqq, from the truth, إنهم ألفوا آباءهم ضالين فهم على آثارهم يهرعون, that they found their fathers or their forefathers upon deviation, so this is what they followed. And because of that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punished them in the day of judgment. And then the nations mentioned one after the other, the major ones, and what the messengers of Allah did to their people and what the people replied and what happened to them in this worldly life. So now, as it's always the way of the Quran, you have verses in Darul Jaza, in Yawm al-Qiyamah, and you have verses in Darul Amal. This is what is meant here, is what is to be done in this life so that the person protects himself in the day of Al-Qiyamah. So he says here, وَإِنَّ مِنْ شِيعَتِهِ لَإِبْرَاهِيمَ. Imam Sa'di rahimahullah says, أي وَإِنَّ مِنْ شِيعَةِ نُوح. شيعته, the ضمير here refers to Nuh alayhi salam. وَلَقَدْ نَادَانَا نُوحٌ فَلَنِعْمَ الْمُجِيبُونَ. So from the Shia of Nuh is Ibrahim alayhi salam. And the meaning of Shia, he says, وَمَنْ هُوَ عَلَى طَرِيقَتِهِ فِي النُّبُوَّةِ. And what he is upon his way in the prophethood. And a Shia, في شيع الأولين, it's a word used for when people are supporting someone or supporting a thing, and they are so much upon it, and they have ta'assub to it, and they're holding fast to it. And that's why it's dhulm. It's from the dhulm and lying to call al-Rafida Shia. Al-Rafida al-Rafida. The real Shia of Ali radiallahu anhu are the people of Ahl Sunnah. And the word tashayyu', saying that from the beginning, the word tashayyu' that was mentioned in the early generations of Islam, how was it used? It was used with regards to those who would prefer Ali radiallahu anhu over Uthman. That's it. Have the preference. Who's more virtue? Ali radiallahu anhu or Uthman radiallahu anhu? They had consensus among them, no doubt, that the best of this ummah is Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, thumma Umar, then Umar. Then those who were called Shia. Those who were called Shia, they called them Shia because they said Ali radiallahu anhu is more virtue than Uthman radiallahu anhu, with keeping all of the respect and the love, and the Khilafah is for Uthman radiallahu anhu. They never doubted this whatsoever. It's just a matter of fadila. So they're the ones that were called, and that's why if you read in the books of the early generations of Islam, or Ilm al-Rijal, or when someone from the narrators, for example, كان فيه تشيع, when you read this, that he has some tashayyu' in him, he was not Rafidi, he was not a cursor cursing the Sahaba and things like this. No, this is what he was. They would say, he had this only, which is wrong, but this is the only thing that he had. So because of the word, someone that is Shi'i, meaning in another terminology sense, that means he supports something. So وَإِنَّ مِنْ شِيعَتِهِ لَإِبْرَاهِيمَ. So مَنْ هُوَ عَلَى طَرِيقَتِهِ, the one that is upon him, في النبوة, in the prophethood, والرسالة. And not anyone that is called anything, he is upon what he's called. دعوة كثيرة, the claim is many, we can call each other all kinds of things, but the reality of it is what matters. So he says, وَمَنْ هُوَ عَلَى طَرِيقَتِهِ فِي النُّبُوَّةِ وَالرِّسَالَةِ, what he's upon him, followed the same way, prophethood and messengership, وَدَعْوَةِ الْخَلْقِ إِلَى اللَّهِ, and inviting the creation of Allah to Allah, وَإِجَابَةِ الدُّعَاء, and the acceptance of the dua, Ibrahim al-Khalil alayhi salam. وَإِنَّ مِنْ شِيعَتِهِ لَإِبْرَاهِيمَ إِذْ جَاءَ رَبَّهُ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. So why Ibrahim alayhi salam and not before Ibrahim? There were many messengers between Nuh and Ibrahim alayhi salam. The verse is talking about Ulil Azmi min ar-Rusul, the major messengers of Allah, the ones of determination, with Nuh and Ibrahim and Musa and Isa and Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And everyone came from Nuh alayhi salam after one was drowned. And then the prophets from Ibrahim alayhi salam afterwards, they're all from the lineage of Ibrahim alayhi salam. So Ibrahim alayhi salam from the lineage of Nuh, and then all the prophets that came afterwards are from the lineage of Ibrahim alayhi salam. And of course the da'wah of Ibrahim is the da'wah of Nuh, is the da'wah of all of the messengers of Allah. And that is the tawheed, the oneness of worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إِذْ جَاءَ رَبَّهُ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. إذ جاء ربه, when he came to his Lord with a sound heart. So إذ جاء ربه, إذ when it happened to be, this is his reality, and this is where الفجائية, that means this is indeed that he came to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with a sound heart. He said من الشرك والشبه, Salim, sound. And إذ جاء, came, right? He came to his Lord in the day of judgment. That means his life was upon what is mentioned in the verse, بقلب سليم. And the ba here, بقلب, that means what? The ba and the letters has different meanings according to the context. So here they call it ba al-musahaba. That means the musahaba means companionship. جئت بكتابي, right? I came with my book. That means your book is with you, not somewhere else. So إذ جاء ربه بقلب سليم. Everybody has a heart. Nobody comes without a heart. But it shows the importance of salamatul qalb, that he came with a sound heart. And this is a virtue and a great manqaba to Ibrahim alayhi salam. إذ جاء ربه بقلب سليم, أي من الشرك. سليم يعني sound from something. سلم من. Right? And of course, the sound heart and comes from it the same three letters of al-Islam, submission. But as-salama is something else, which has to do with actions. It's not by default. Right? When you say something salim, that means it's been, something has been done to it for it to be sound and clean and removed from all kinds of harm. So this is amal, not that he found himself like this. Not like those innahum alfaw aba'ahum dhalin. Unlike those who it happened that they found themselves following the religion of their fathers. No, and as we've been hearing, the haqq, you have to work on it to establish it. If you leave yourself, the default is, because of the whispers of shaitan, is evil, deviation. So there has to, work has to be done. So when we say salim, salima, ay salim min ash-shirk, from associating partners with Allah, والشبه, the doubtful matters, والشهوات المانعة. Shahawat is the desires, the sinful desires. Usually ash-shahwa, usually in the context of sinful desires, not the desire that is fulfilled in the halal way. But he mentioned here an important meaning. Imam Sa'di rahimahullah, he says والشهوات المانعة من تصور الحق والعمل به. The subject is about the heart, right? So you have the shirk is the destroyer of the heart, of course. And shubah, doubts, weakens and can destroy the heart with the shirk, shubah, the doubtful matters. And that's why the early generations of Islam would say you stay away from the people of bid'ah to protect your heart. Because shubah khattafa. Shubah or doubts snaps, kidnaps, right? وَالْقُلُوبُ ضَعِيفَةٌ, and the hearts are weak. So why would you expose yourself? Not that the haqq is weak, the haqq is strong. But for someone to praise himself that he is all that and he can face all kinds of things, this is not the right way to do it, but rather to stay away from it while having the ilm, while having the haqq. So this is with a shirk and a shubah. A shahawat, sins, the effect of sins on the hearts. It does not make it qalbun salim. Does not make it sound, makes it have wounds in it, makes it weak. So it's not sound. And if it's not sound and a person dies like this, he faces in Dar al-Jaza things according to how his heart is. Because you have to come in the day of judgment with a sound heart. Because Ibrahim alayhi salam also his dua, وَلَا تُخْزِنِي يَوْمَ يُبْعَثُونَ يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالٌ وَلَا بَنُونَ إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. Except the one that came to Allah with a qalb salim. أَتَى, جاء. So here, الشرك والشبه, and then here the point was shahawat al-mani'a, the shahawat that mani'a, al-man'a is withholds, deprives, min tasawwur al-haq, makes the person not able to perceive or image the truth, wal-amal bih, and to act upon it. And this is a meaning that is repeated, and we mentioned that many times, so that nobody think that aqidah is only because of your aql and reason, and mashallah, you're smart and you understand things, so you're firm upon this. No, sins has an effect. And the good deeds has an effect. The good deeds meaning obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala strengthen the hearts. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put in the heart yaqeen and certainty and so on. And sins weakens the heart and it keeps on weakening the heart. And what does it do to the heart? One of the evil consequences of sins makes the person not able to see the truth, or the truth become distorted or not clear. والشهوات المانعة من تصور الحق والعمل به, and to act upon it. And one clear example of that, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about those who use riba and usury. الذين يأكلون الربا لا يقومون إلا كما يقوم الذي يتخبطه الشيطان من المس. Those who eat riba, those who deal with riba, they don't get up except like someone is being afflicted with shaitan as mas, being possessed by the shaitan, like an insane person, majnoon. Majnoon meaning what? He doesn't understand anything. He's, even the word disoriented is not the right word. He's become like someone doesn't see things. The matter is very obvious and he doesn't see it. Why? Because he did the Iblis way. Iblis way is when he used analogy with the wahy from Allah. When you have wahy, command from Allah, your aql is to understand it. This is the way of the people of Ahl Sunnah. It's not that they cancel their aql. The commander of this command is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So who are you to judge that or to challenge that? Because, for example, in the subject of riba, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about the disbelievers when they said, قالوا إنما البيع مثل الربا. They said, al-bay', buying and selling is like riba. So why you're forbidding riba and not forbidding bay'? And what was the answer to this? قالوا إنما البيع مثل الربا وأحل الله البيع وحرم الربا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He's the most wise subhanahu wa ta'ala. The ayah could have, for example, saying, well, riba is this and it destroys the economy and it's not good for you. No, it says Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the buying and selling halal, and He forbade the riba. That's the end of it. Because He subhanahu wa ta'ala, the owner of al-tahleel wa al-tahreem. And this is aqdul iman. This is the covenant of al-iman. And the ones that were addressed by this, يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وذروا ما بقي من الربا. So the believers. So the believers meaning that they, if you are believers, then follow the commands of Allah. Don't try to turn away from the commands of Allah. So again, the point here is that the shahawat has an evil effect to the heart that makes the person does not have the proper tasawwur للحق. He lost the page. What page number? 1426. Okay. I don't want to take too long. We're supposed to be brief in these durus so that we understand the meaning of what's being said. 1425. So he says here, so salima, and to reflect upon this and to give it more attention, the issue of salamatul qalb من الشرك والشبه والشهوات المانعة من تصور الحق والعمل به. That explains many things in our life to protect ourselves from not knowing the truth, and never trust yourself in knowing the haqq. Because what if the heart is having a ghishawa on the eyes, as a result of that a person is not seeing it. So وإذا كان قلب العبد سليما, and if the heart of the abd is sound, سلم من كل شر وحصل له كل خير, then he is safe from every evil and every goodness will be attained by him. So this is salim, and salim is صفة مشبهة. Right? This is a صفة مشبهة that comes from السلامة. السلامة is al-khalas, from deficiencies, from weaknesses and diseases and so on. So that means the hearts always get affected by these things. Get affected by shirk, affected by sins, affected by shubah, except for the ones that do something, has this characteristics of cleaning and pushing away this to his heart, to have a sound heart. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praising Ibrahim alayhi salam that he comes with a sound heart, as he said subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَإِبْرَاهِيمَ الَّذِي وَفَّى. Ibrahim alayhi salam waffa, he fulfilled his mission perfectly. وَإِذَا بِتَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ رَبُّهُ بِكَلِمَاتٍ فَأَتَمَّهُنْ. Right, when Allah tested him, tried him with kalimat, kalimat al-kawniyya and al-shar'iyya, فَأَتَمَّهُنْ, he perfected them. So he fulfilled the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is what he came with, a sound heart. So, and this is also ja'a from, like ata also has the same meaning like this. And it comes with the response of acceptance as al-istijaba, responding. And then he says, وَمِن سَلَامَتِهِ أَنَّهُ سَلِيمٌ مِنْ غِشِّ الْخَلْقِ. From the salama of the heart, that it's sound from ghish al-khalq. Al-ghish is cheating, deceiving of the creation of Allah, of the human beings. That he is safe, his heart is sound and clean from having ghish, from having evil towards the people. By want to deceive them, want to cheat them. وحسدهم, envying the people. وغير ذلك من مساوي الأخلاق. And other than that, from the bad manners, because that's also not a heart that is salim. This is a corrupted heart. So it's in ibadat al-Khaliq subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the worship of Allah with ikhlas and sincerity and fear of Allah and so on, and being away from the things that pollute the heart from a shirk and other than that, and sins and the effect of it. And for the heart to be salim, so a lot of work to be done. That the heart has to be towards the people with nusх, with all kinds of concern towards them. How can they be the best? How can they save themselves? How can they be upright? Everyone, the entire humanity, he has this concern towards them. So without this, the heart is, does not have this salama, is not been safe from what contaminated and polluted. And the warning here, the day of judgment, is about the heart. So if a person, moment of death comes and his heart is having all kinds of things, whether it's in his ibadah to Allah or whether it's with dealing with people, then that's not going to be let go. Because the heart now, according to what the heart is the matter will be in the day of judgment. So a person has, this is a salama to the heart, is a duty that has to be done immediately, not to be for a person to wait to do it later. And is it a feeling? No, you don't have to feel good about every single person, but it's a decision made that a person wants what is good for them. You can force yourself to make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for them. You don't have any bad thinking towards them, and so on. And that's also detailed subject. All of that is from al-qalb al-salim. And the evidence of that, when he said, وَلِهَذَا نَصَحَ الْخَلْقِ فِي اللَّهِ. And that's why he had the nusх to al-khalq, to the creation of Allah, for the sake of Allah. وَبَدَأَ بِأَبِيهِ وَقَوْمِهِ. And he started with his father and his people. فقال إذ قال لأبيه وقومه ماذا تعبدون. This is salamatul qalb. That when you see someone on a train track and the train is coming, right, and you want at least the least goodness for that person, you're going to do something or try your best to save that person from imminent death. And if you say I don't care, you're betraying that person. So what is worse than to be in hellfire forever? And when the heart is full of the tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then the heart will have the best towards the human beings, even if they don't like it or they're against it. And by the mercy of Allah, He's not going to come and take his father and his people and force them, even though if he does this at the end, they will be the one successful. لا إكراه في الدين. There's no compulsion in the religion. He can only invite, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides the heart. إذ قال لأبيه وقومه. When he said to his father and his people, and this is also repeated in many places in the Quran, etiquettes and manners and details for those who want to learn. He said to them here in this ayah, we're not going to the other verses and trying to relate them to one another. He says, ماذا تعبدون? What are you worshipping? ماذا تعبدون? Of course they know, and he knows what they're worshipping, but it's a question. He says, هذا استفهام على وجه الإنكار وإلزام لهم بالحجة. This is what we need to remember studying. So what is this استفهام is about? ما نوع الاستفهام؟ ما نوع هذا الاستفهام? If you have a question, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy. You have good exams, inshallah. But what type of istifham? Is it, oh, he's asking ماذا تعبدون because he doesn't know and they're going to give him an answer, oh, we're worshipping this. No, he's saying it to inkar, forbidding them from this. Like when you say, what are you doing? Why would you do something like this? And إلزام لهم بالحجة, to establish the evidence against them, to corner them with the hujjah of the tawheed, so that they would find and discover for themselves, if they don't see it, that they're upon so much evil that they need to repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And He's been sent to take them from this shirk and associating partners with Allah. He says, ماذا تعبدون? So there's an act of ibadah that they do to these idols. أئفكا آلهة دون الله تريدون? Now another question. أئفكا. Al-ifk is the lie. Like hadithatul ifk to Aisha radiallahu anha. So أئفكا, are you doing ifk? And this is hal. This is your state that you're doing lies, you're attributing lies. أئفكا آلهة, idols that you worship. دون الله, other than Allah. تريدون, that you are seeking from al-irada. تريدون at the end. تقديم المفعول على الفعل has a significant meaning to it. Like إياك نعبد instead of نعبدك. So why إياك نعبد? تفيد what we talked about that in the tafseer. The تخصيص, the exclusiveness, that it does not leave a chance for someone to think that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be worshipped and also maybe someone else. That's what it's إياك, it starts with إياك. Here إفكا آلهة دون الله تريدون, like تريدون آلهة إفكا دون الله تريدون آلهة. What does it mean for someone to want an idol to be worshipped? That means you want to worship them. So إفكا آلهة, so آلهة المفعول به. دون الله تريدون, that you're seeking or you want, which means he says أي أتعبدون من دون الله من دونه آلهة, you're worshipping other than Allah آلهة. كذبا, إفكا, كذبا, lying. ليست بآلهة, it's not آلهة. You made this up, they're not آلهة. ولا تصلح للعبادة, and it does not befit for the ibadah. And as you see here, تعبدون, I mean, how can someone not understand what does it mean to say لا إله إلا الله? Right? When we say لا إله إلا الله, لا معبود بحق, no one is worthy of worship. And this is where the shirk of the nations were upon this, when they associated partners with Allah in the ibadah. إفكا آلهة. So this is their shirk, is they took آلهة besides Allah. And al-ilah is the one to be worshipped, is the one to be worshipped with perfect love and perfect submission. So إفكا آلهة دون الله تريدون أي أتعبدون من دون الله آلهة كذبا. إفكا كذبا, lying, ليست بآلهة ولا تصلح للعبادة, and it does not fit for it to be worshipped. And then he says فما ظنكم برب العالمين. This we will stop here inshallah. He says فما ظنكم برب العالمين, which the translation says then what do you think about the Lord of the Alameen? What that means is فما ظنكم, the word الظن, what do you think of the Lord of the Alameen is going to do to you? How he's going to reward you or punish you as a result of what you're doing. He says فما ظنكم برب العالمين. He says أن يفعل بكم وقد عبدتم معه غيره. What do you think of Allah is going to do to you when you worshipped with him other than him? فما ظنكم برب العالمين. الظن برب العالمين. This is where when we talk حسن الظن بالله, to have good expectations of Allah, good thinking about Allah versus سوء الظن. And حسن الظن بالله, when a person thinks good about Allah, that he's going to treat him in a certain way in the day of judgment, that he will forgive his sins. This is the حسن الظن بالله, that Allah would forgive his sins, will have mercy upon him. Who's the one that deserves to have حسن الظن بالله? Those who did عمل. أحسنوا العمل فأحسنوا الظن, as Al-Hasan al-Basri rahimahullah said, statement and the meaning of which. Those who claim that they have good thinking about Allah, but they أساءوا العمل. They do bad actions. You know, they don't have good expectations of Allah, because if لو أحسنوا العمل لأحسنوا الظن. If they are good in their actions, they will have the good expectations of Allah. So فما ظنكم برب العالمين, what do you think that Allah would do to you if you worship other than him? He says وهذا ترهيب لهم بالجزاء بالعقاب. This is ترهيب. He is putting the rahba in their hearts, the fear in their hearts, warning them. Warning brings fear. When you warn someone from something, you're not saying for them to be happy. You're in the context of warning. You're not giving glad tidings. So the warning would make them feel terrified, sad, worried, right? And that's a good thing to save themselves from trouble. And this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created it. So this is part of the nusх, the nasiha towards them. This is the part of the salamatul qalb towards the people, to warn them from what they ought to be warned against. وهذا ترهيب لهم بالجزاء بالعقاب with the punishment على الإقامة على شركهم if they continue to be upon the shirk. وما الذي ظننتم برب العالمين من النقص. So this is the first meaning we need to remember. فما ظنكم برب العالمين. What do you think that Allah would do for you as a punishment because of what you did? The obvious is that He will punish you. The other meaning, which is both correct, وما الذي ظننتم برب العالمين من النقص. What made you think of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with deficiency and not being the most perfect with His perfect names and attributes? حتى جعلتم له أندادا وشركاء. That you made for Him andad partners and rivals with Allah. That means you're claiming, you're attributing to Allah all kinds of evil. If you claim that He has a son, that means He's in need. Partners, people in this life, they want partners because they would complete them or fulfill something that they don't have. So you have evil thinking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you attributed to Him, and that's why you're worshipping idols. It is not sufficient for you to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. And that's the case with anyone that turn with his heart to other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only one worthy of worship, and every ibadah is to be done to Allah. So when someone makes dua to Allah, and this is again, always mention this because the shaitan, he works on this. So when someone goes to the grave again, why would he say, oh, so and so, ask Allah for me? Or that's if he doesn't want to be asking Him directly. And people would approve this, say it's okay, and it's permissible. Did they ever read the Quran from the beginning to the end? You doubt that, really. And it's that's why the essence of the ibadah is the dua. الدعاء هو العبادة. And what is the major, not a major difference, the da'wah of all of the Anbiya? Bring one evidence, one ayah, one hadith that would approve for the person to call upon a dead to forgive his sin or whatever it is. This is the entire Quran, all evidences against it. So this is فَمَا ظَنُّكُمْ بِرَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. And the word al-dhann, and with this inshallah, of course this has so many different use to it in the Quran. And the dhann can mean doubt, but it's not really doubt. It goes between two ends, right? When the word dhann, whether it goes all the way to, say for example, the kufr. You have kufr and you have the complete iman, one and two extreme ends. A dhann can be going this way or that way. It depends on the person, it depends on the context. So when someone is confused or having doubts, this can be used as dhann. If it's for someone that is praiseworthy, someone that is upon al-iman, al-dhann to him يفيد اليقين. It means the yaqeen, the certainty. So it's the act. I don't know how to explain it in the right way, but it's if you I don't want to say something wrong. Say if you have, for example, a mu'ashir. What's a mu'ashir? You have a pointer, right, going between one side to the other. That pointer can either go to the worst evil or can go to the best. So if it's to the best, it means yaqeen, certainty. That's the dhann. If it goes to the closer to the kufr, that's doubt. Right? So this is what the word al-dhann is. And this is, it's mentioned in the Quran, the dhann with the meaning of the yaqeen. الذين يظنون أنهم ملاقو ربهم وأنهم إليه راجعون. The believers. Those who يظنون أنهم ملاقو ربهم. Someone doesn't understand even the basics of the language, they would translate it as for the believers, those who they have doubt if they would meet Allah. Maybe they will meet Allah and they will return to Him. No, the believers, they have certainty. So يظنون here means they have yaqeen that they will meet Allah. But their dhann is went with al-iman to be in the state of certainty. So this is and it comes in other meanings too. Because of the time, inshallah, we'll stop here. So this is وَإِنَّ مِنْ شِيعَتِهِ لإبراهيم إذ جاء ربه بقلب سليم إذ قال لأبيه وقومه ماذا تعبدون أئفكا آلهة دون الله تريدون فما ظنكم برب العالمين. And this is all, how dare you do something like this? Don't you have the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your heart? How would you not see that how evil it is to turn to other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when He is the Lord of the Alameen? Then the verses goes on with how with part of the nasiha and the ihsan and salamatul qalb, going all the way all kinds of ways to convince his people, to establish the hujjah on them so that they are saved from the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept, inshallah. The attendance code is بقلب سليم. بقلب سليم, with a sound heart. بارك الله فيكم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us benefit, inshallah. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. والسلام عليكم.